You want to immigrate to Canada? As tempting as it looks, please do not ask these 5 questions. Believe me, it's based on my personal experience with hundreds of immigrants to Canada. I found out asking these kinds of questions could be either useless or work against you. But what are those questions? Let's take a look. Question number 1. Can you offer me an easy immigration option to Canada? Well, I hate to break it to you, but there are no immigration options out there that are considered easy, because immigration options are based on your skills, your financial status, or your work experience, or your education and your knowledge of official languages of Canada. Because of that, you need to do several things. You need to go through several steps. Like, for example, you need to take an English test or a French test or both. You need to translate your education credentials into English or French, have them being assessed by an educational credential assessment organization. You need to receive reference letters from your employers. For certain immigration options, you need bank statements, financial statements of your business. You need appraisal of your properties in some cases, and a lot more. You also need to go through background check. It means that you need to receive police certificates from every country that you lived for a long period of time. Of course, this list, depending on the method of immigration, could change, but at the end of the day, do you call this easy? Question number 2. Don't ask, can I come to Canada quickly? Well, let me tell you this. I was at an event which the previous immigration minister, Ahmed Hussein, was in that event as a speaker. And I remember that he said that we have made changes in the process of sponsoring spouses to Canada, that we can guarantee that within a period of 12 months, they will come to Canada. Okay. So my personal experience doesn't quite reflect that, because my clients have managed to immigrate to Canada under the spousal sponsorship applications anywhere between 3 months to 22 months. Now keep that in mind. The spousal immigration to Canada is one of the fastest methods of immigration to Canada. So even if we take the face value of what the ex-minister said, 12 months for one of the fastest methods of immigration to Canada. Can you imagine what happens to other methods of immigration to Canada? And in some immigration options, you actually go through 2 phases. You first receive a work permit or a study permit to Canada, and eventually you qualify to immigrate to Canada. In fact, majority of immigration applications take years before they complete. So there is no quick way to immigrate to Canada. Can you offer me a cheap immigration option? Well, let's for a moment think that you are not going to hire an immigration consultant or an immigration lawyer. When you immigrate to Canada, you need to pay processing fee to the government of Canada. The processing fees could be a few $100s to, in some cases, more than $1,000. In fact, for business immigration to Canada, federal government charges $1,550 just for the principal applicant. And then you need to add on top of that the amount that you need to pay for the spouse, for dependent children. If you're applying under a PNP program, then you will also end up paying some processing fee to the provincial government. That's not it. When you are approved for immigration to Canada, you need to pay up to $1,000 in right of permanent residence fee, also known as landing fee. You need to do biometrics. Biometrics for one person is $85. For a family is $170. Think about medical examination. It could cost you several hundreds of dollars just to go through medical examination. On top of all of those, you need to translate documents, collect documents, receive reference letters from your employers. You need to appraise your properties for some immigration options. You need to receive educational credential assessment from approved organizations for some immigration options. You need to take an IELTS test or TEF Canada test or similar test to prove to the immigration authorities that you know English or French languages. All of those combined together could cost you thousands of dollars. Of course, when you are approved, if you intend to travel to Canada, you also need to purchase your tickets, rent a place, and so on and so forth. In some immigration options, you need to do exploratory visits of Canada. That means you need to go through traveling process to Canada, getting a visit visa, visiting the province, and spending money before even submitting your application. Of course, if you decide to hire an immigration consultant or lawyer, you will end up paying them several hundreds of dollars, in some cases several thousands of dollars in professional fees. There is no cheap way for immigration to Canada, period. Question number 4, can you guarantee my success? Honestly, I don't know where this question comes from, because think about this. I am a middleman as an immigration consultant. You are the applicant, but the decision maker is an immigration officer or a border services officer. Can I replace that person? Can I replace their decision-making process? This is impossible. I don't have a magic wand to guarantee that the immigration officer will say yes. Think about that. The immigration law allows some room of decision-making to immigration officers. In other words, the discretion of the immigration officer is always included in the decision-making process. So no matter how complete your package is, how beautifully written your cover letter is, how qualified you are, at the end of the day, we have some immigration officers that they are a lot more strict than other immigration officers, and if you are unlucky enough, you will end up being refused by that immigration officer. In fact, even if we take the matter to the courts give a lot of room for immigration officers to make decisions. They call it in the administrative law deference. Deference means that the court says we only interfere with the job of the immigration officer if the immigration officer was not reasonable, not if the immigration officer was correct or not correct. Just think about that. Even the judges of the federal court forget about whether the officer was correct or not correct. They just focus on whether the officer was reasonable or not. So let's look at this question. Can anybody guarantee your success? The simple answer is no. There is no such a thing as guaranteeing your success. The last question. Don't ask, give me references. Let me tell you why. It looks like to be a reasonable expectation from an immigration consultant or a lawyer that you approach them and say, can you give me some references? But what's the use of asking this question? I mean, at best, if I'm an ethical immigration consultant and follow the rules and I'm honest, I will cherry pick some of my best clients that they are happy with my services, and I will introduce them to you. So do you think if you talk to those people, you will really get the picture of the quality of the job that I've done? If I'm not an honest immigration consultant or lawyer, then what I will do, I will make up clients and pretend clients. So what's the use of that? I don't get it. I mean, this could be the opposite of finding out whether that immigration consultant or lawyer is a good immigration consultant or lawyer. Now, if you want to find out whether you have picked the right person, there are some other tools out there that could be potentially better than asking for references. For example, you can make sure that this person is a licensed professional. You need to get in touch with the regulator to see if there are any disciplinary actions taken against them. Or for example, you could visit their website, their social media, other sources to see if they look to be knowledgeable, they know their trade, what they are talking about, do they look salesy or not? Call them, be in touch with them, and use your critical thinking to analyze to see if you click with that person. You may ask why I'm telling you don't ask these questions. Well, you can ask these questions, that's fine, I guess, but to me, they will not serve any purpose because it creates either wrong expectations in your mind or expose you to wrong people. Because if you approach an honest consultant or an honest lawyer, they will tell you, for example, that I cannot guarantee your success. I cannot guarantee or help you with speeding up the process of application. I cannot offer you an easy or cheap immigration option. And then you may say, oh, this guy doesn't know what he is doing, what she is doing. And then you may approach somebody that person is not honest and they say, oh, of course I will guarantee. Of course I will help you to quickly reach the results that you want. Of course I will find a very cheap option for you. And then you will find out that you have been abused by that person. So in other words, if you start with these kinds of questions about your immigration to Canada, in many cases, not necessarily always, in many cases it works against you instead of for you. So why should you ask questions that work against you? You may ask, okay, so what kind of questions should I ask? Now that's a good start. Stay tuned. And of course, subscribe if you are on YouTube. And believe me, I will have another video explain what kind of questions you must ask.